Welcome to Lori's Happy Stamps for September. It's our Christmas card group, and today we are making what I call a sunburst card, but it really is a way to use your scraps. Today we'll be using the little the little labels that I provided for you, or something else. You don't have to have those, but what you mostly need is white, basic white cardstock folded in half at 4 1/4, and you're going to need a white piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4, and just fold it in half because that's going to be a template for you. And the other one you're going to need for the second card is a piece, the same base, but you're going to need a piece of cardstock that is 5 inches by 2 3/4, and then you're going to fold that or score it in half as well. So let's get started. The first card, you're going to put your base over to the side, and you're going to cut out your DSP into strips that are 6 inches long by 1 1/4. You're going to take each of those strips, so you have a 6 inch by 1 1/4 piece, and you're going to start in one corner and end in the other corner and cut them so that you have these diagonal long strips. You're going to make those out of whatever DSP you have, and in this case I used 2 different colors, but when you use Stampin' Up! Products, then you have really 4 colors because you have the front and the back. So the first thing we're going to do is take our 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece. You've folded it or scored it in the middle. It's just a marker for you, and you're going to layer these triangular pieces onto the paper, and you're just going to make sure that the top and the bottom extend past the lines. You're going to trim this later. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the right hand side, and I'm just going to put glue on that whole side real quickly. And my first piece, the secret is your first piece is going to butt up right up to that that mark that you've made in the middle, that you've either made as a score line or you have folded it in half. So the next thing you're going to do is add your next piece, and all of them, the point goes down towards the bottom. So you're just going to keep layering these like this, and layer, and you're going to layer so that the end of the cardstock is covered. So it looks like this. You've got a lot of mess on the back. That's perfectly fine. Now you're going to repeat the same thing on the left hand side. So you're just going to put glue all along, and then you're going to just randomly pick your colors again, and you need 10 of them for each card. We'll do this one, and then we'll do this one, and you're just laying them up against each other. I think I'll do this one, and it depends on where you set them down as to how much space you have at the bottom, at the end. And so this one, I'll be right there. Okay, so now I've got that, And now I've got this pattern on the back where I can cut the piece, I can cut right around this. I could use my trimmer for real quick, but for right now I'm just going to use a pair of snips. They're not even my good snips because there might be some glue on them, so I'm just using an old pair of snips. I wouldn't use my Stampin' Up! Ones for this because I don't like glue to get on my good ones that I use to cut ribbon and DSP on a regular basis. So I have this junky pair that I kind of keep when I know I'm going to cut on where some glue might be involved. Okay, so I've cut this. I could have done a better job on this side. Okay, so now I have my piece, and I'm ready to attach it to my card base, just like that. So before I do that, I'm just going to glue it just like that. So like that, flat onto my card base. And there you have your background to decorate the card any way you want. Now let me show you a few of the cards that I made using that. Well, I didn't exactly do that. Okay, one of the things I did is I took that same exact way I did that, and I just added a border along the side. So I used one of my dies for that, but this one I'm just going to use a 5 1/4 inch piece of paper, and I'm just going to tear. You know I love the tear technique, and so this is just a piece of DSP that I had. I'm going to just put a little glue right down the edge, lay it down, and voila. Card 1, you're now ready to add a label, add a sentiment, add your own decoration. You could make it go either way. It looks adorable. There's your first, your portrait way of making this card. And now the second card we're going to do is you start with the same card base, 8 1/2 by what is that? 5 1/2 by 11, score 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. Sorry about that. I have to get it out the right way. And this time we are going to use a little base for our sentiment. And so you're going to have your 5 by 2 3/4 piece of white cardstock folded or scored in the middle. And you're also going to have a piece of 5 1/4 by 3 inch cardstock that you're going to glue it on top. So this time you're going to take your strips, and you're going to start with a strip that is actually 1 1/4 by 4, and you're going to cut it from one corner to the next, so the opposite, so that you have these diagonal pieces, and you're going to need 10 of those. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, and you're going to start gluing them again on this piece of cardstock. So again, to the right of the line, go ahead and put glue, and then just start with the center. All the points lead to the bottom. All the points are at the bottom to make this starburst. The thing you want to be cognizant about is to make sure that it overlaps the white at the top and the bottom. You can always trim it later, and you will. And you just butt them up right next to each other. After you've made a few of these, you might even have some pieces that you could, repurpose and use again, depending on the size of the card that you make. And these are just kind of random sizes that I picked. You could make your white cardstock, your pattern behind it, any size you wanted, really. The trick for this, to make this the sunburst, is just to make sure that the thicker piece is towards the top, and the smaller end goes towards the bottom. And we're just about done here. You see, if I use this like this, I would have a very little space right here. If I use it closer to the bottom, then I can have another little smidgy space to get another pretty decent piece in there. Okay, glued it to my paper. Okay, so the mess on the back, and you know what we're going to do, we're just going to trim that. I hope you like this. If you're not into doing the Christmas stuff, man, this would be great for Halloween, for Thanksgiving, for anything. You could make it all occasion. It's a great way to use up scraps. I usually keep just a little scrap bin over to the side and throw pieces in there, particularly the long skinny pieces. If you don't have 1 1/4 inch pieces, but you only have 1 inch or maybe even 3/4 inch, you could just have narrower strips. Works just fine. I don't see why you couldn't do that. And here we go. Now we've got this. Oops. There we go. Okay. Now we've got this piece, and this time we're going to take that 5 by 3 piece and we're going to mount it on there just with some glue, just for something different. I'm getting towards the end of my glue bottle, so if I tap it on the work surface first, I tend to get a little more life out of a bottle. Okay, and so now it's ready to be added to our card, but before we do that, we're going to take another piece of 5 1/4. Is that 5 1/4 or 5 inch? That is 5 inch. 5 inch paper, and we're going to tear it. Again, if you want to use your dies, your border dies, because you've got some great border dies, go ahead and do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to just attach it to the back of this strip right here, this rectangle. And it's up to you how much of the strip you want to show at the bottom. And there we have it. And I'm going to glue the whole thing now onto the white card base. And I want to have about 1/4 of an inch at the top and on the sides. And then at the bottom I've got some extra space. And again, now I'm ready to decorate it with something that I have stamped and cut out, or simply adding a greeting. But there you go. So see you next week.